Every winter forecast that you have seen either on YouTube or the mainstream media is about to be wrong. In fact, it is impossible to try to figure out what is going to happen this winter, even to be close. But yet you see winter forecast after winter forecast after winter forecast. And I know what you guys might be thinking, but Evan, these are people that I trust. I watch their forecasts all the time. Generally, they're pretty good in the short range. But even in these videos themselves, they are admitting that what they are doing is pointless or for fun. But if it's so pointless and it's so fun to speculate, then why does the general audience not get that? Look at this video right here, 5.2 million views on a video that will have absolutely no bearing on the winter whatsoever. Another one over here with 1 million views, which again will have no bearing, no accuracy on what the winter will do. People will come over to this website and look at these figures here saying, no, we're gonna be either in an El Nino or neutral. Again, these are forecasts that are way out into the future. A great way to think about long range versus short range forecasts is kind of thinking like a hill. You see this hill right here? It is a nice smooth hill. If I drop a ball just like this, it'll fall, maybe bounce a couple times before eventually settling and then going down the hill pretty smoothly and rolling all the way down. That's really not a hard thing to forecast. But if you go further and further out into the long range, the more bumps you are adding to the hill itself until eventually the hill is just all these different weird looking bumps, and it's literally impossible to predict. Because if you drop a ball, it could hit this area first, bounce just a little bit differently, hit this, maybe bounce back, bounce this way, bounce back, bounce this way, bounce back. But to be able to simulate that every single time to perfection is impossible. And that's pretty much what a long forecast is, something that goes on beyond, 7 to 14 days. You were talking about going beyond into months. What I really do find odd about this is we literally just had a tropical system that was forecasted even in the short range to become at least a tropical storm. And that short range forecast ended up being dead wrong. Now that's pretty rare, but it does kind of highlight the variability of models and how hard or inaccurate some of our models can be. And that is just 2 to 3 days out. When we have a smooth road with minimal bumps, even those little tiny cracks in the forecast can cause big issues down the line when it comes to prediction. A more scientific way to kind of show off why models can be wrong is understanding what the resolution means of models. Now, the GFS model, which is a global model, and some of our monthly models usually have resolutions of around this kind of box. GFS is a little bit of a smaller resolution. That's pretty much the limit in which it can figure out parameters and then simulate them. So it has to do a lot of approximation in order to figure out what's happening on the smaller scale. If we zoom all the way in here, you can see that within that box, even with this little area of rain that's developing right now, you see there's a little thing over here, little thing over here, little thing over here, little thing over here. And if we go over to this visible satellite, you can see there's all this over here, all these little tiny details that when you zoom out and look at that box, you can see that it's not going to really do that well in approximating all those little finite details. And so what happens as you push this into the future, the more approximation this box has to do. And you add that up over months and months and months, those tiny mistakes blossom into ginormous mistakes. So when we come over here and look at our official forecast going into later this year for whether or not it's going to be La Nina or El Nino, what a lot of people don't say is that a lot of times this model is wrong. There has been times when we're supposed to transfer into an El Nino, but it takes months longer than expected. Although this is a good guidance for what could possibly happen, it needs to be stressed that this could be dead wrong. And it usually is in some way or some form of fashion. Unless we have a very prevalent El Nino or La Nina, it is hard to know exactly where we're going to go in the future. And this, believe it or not, is where a lot of these forecasts, these winter forecasts are coming from. And you've seen them. So if we look at kind of what an El Nino or a La Nina winter could look like, again, these are just approximation. This is just an average. You can see that in El Nino, our Pacific jet stream is a little bit more extended with amplified force storm tracks, bringing colder conditions and more moist conditions down to the southeast, drier conditions up into the Ohio Valley, and warmer conditions up here into Canada. And then when you go into La Nina, typically that flip-flops. You have colder conditions up there in Canada, wetter conditions over here in the Ohio Valley with a veritable polar jet stream, meaning potential for some more intrusions of colder air coming into the United States. But when you're in a neutral, these can just flip-flop back and forth. You might have some months where the Pacific jet stream is more amplified and some months where the veritable polar jet stream is more amplified. It really just all falls down to where that colder air is when these flip-flop and at what months. If we get into a more colder, more wavy polar jet stream as we go into the beginning months of winter, it'll most likely be an anomalously cool, maybe a couple of earlier snow showers than what we typically expect. But then if that switches over to more of a dominant Pacific jet stream as we go later into the winter, where we typically would have our most cooler temperatures up here, and it's warmer than usual and drier than usual, then folks that expects more snow during those months might luck out and not even get any. Or if you like snow, unluck out. So this winter is going to have unexpectedly high variability and unpredictability. Even trying to put this kind of forecast in ranges is nearly impossible to try to understand what is going to happen. And all of these graphics here are actually based off of previous weather patterns. One of the things that nobody is talking about going into winter is climate change, which does play a role in winter, because one of the main things that dictates our colder air is the Arctic. And if we look at the Arctic and kind of push it off in the future, you can see that it is warmer than average already. And it has been staying warmer than average for a lot of the winter up here. We really haven't had many big injections of cooler than average temperatures in the Arctic. So that's something that typically we don't have to worry about, that is most likely not factored into this. The fact that the Arctic is more warmer than average, if we do flip into this kind of Pacific jet stream dominance, it'll likely be warmer than warmer. Given that for every degree you warm the atmosphere, you add more moisture into the atmosphere as well. We just have more moisture to go around, so maybe it won't be as dry, maybe more rainy in the Ohio Valley. If the polar jet streams becomes more dominant, these colder temperatures won't be as cold because of some of this anomalously warmer air that continues to get warmer and warmer every year. But this isn't guaranteed. We could have a little bit more ice. This is the Arctic ice extent right now, and you can see the medium ice edge is in this orange line. This is where on average it usually is, and as you can see, we are way below average on ice right now. But you can make an argument that eventually, as we get into the future, this could catch up, freeze a little bit faster if we get anomalously colder air, and then, you know, we might have a little bit more of an average year. But that's the thing, you see all these things where I'm saying we could, or this could be a little bit this and a little bit that. That's saying that right now, and then as we go further, you extrapolate all of these different possibilities out into the future and have them all interact, and still remember the resolution of these models and how they miss all these smaller details, especially as they extrapolate that out into the future. And then you look at the world map and you look at all these different areas that are interacting with each other all at once. The Atlantic going into Europe, and then that MJO circles around the United States, and we can have all of these different weather patterns interacting, and you try to extrapolate that all the way out. 3 months from now, it becomes impossible. Every single person that has made a forecast so far, even though they sound confident, are going to be dead wrong. It is 100% completely a guess. You should not click on those videos looking for any answers. You shouldn't get excited when they highlight your area that says that there could be some snow there. If you want to watch them, that's cool for entertainment purposes. I will admit, highly recommend this video right here. The editing is top notch. I've never watched a weather video that was that entertaining, where I could just sit there and watch it completely all the way through the video. And I'm sure if you're a weather fan as well, you love this video as well. But you have to go into it with a healthy and realistic mindset. It's a fun video, but that's all it is. The predictions will be wrong. And that's why I'm not making a winter forecast this year. There's just too many variables to track and to predict accurately. Even if you put it into a supercomputer, then added ChatGPT 5 to it, still wouldn't pump out an accurate prediction. The world's smartest man could not figure this out. Even if Einstein was alive today, he would sit here and tell you probably the same thing, which is stop trying to predict. It is impossible with the current tools and data that we have right now. But I do appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you so much for watching this video. Leave a like and sub, and hype the video up if you did find this video informational. Probably not too entertaining, but it is what it is. And I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.